first time ever, all 4 divisional series across Major League Baseball playoffs are tied at 1-1 split. Today we find out between the Mets, Phillies, who's going to take the lead. Welcome into PHLY Phillies podcast, presented by Ace Hardware, where Red October is powered by Ace Hardware Home Services. You can check out all of the details to get started on your next project at acehardwarehomeservices.com. And we're brought to you by delicious, refreshing Miller Lite.
Say less,
it's
I'll
the
drink.
pregame show, and you can get Miller Lite delivered right to your door by visiting MillerLite.com/PHLY Phillies, or find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Of course, celebrate responsibly. Tyler Zulli, Jamie Lynch, myself, Renee Washington here, live from Gall & Co., the Port Richmond location, as we're bringing you our pregame show. We'll have a live watch party, and we'll also have our postgame show here as well for the NLDS Game 3 Phillies-Mets. We're going to get into the pitching matchup between Aaron Nola and Sean Manea. We're also going to have Hannah Keyser, baseball writer and reporter, joining us in the show. Plus, we'll give our predictions and also talk lineups. But, guys, today is the day. We had a day off from the NLDS action as we had a chance to see the ALDS games play out Monday night. How are we feeling coming into today? It's a sunny, another beautiful day, another great day for some baseball.
Gorgeous day for Miller Lights.
And a beautiful day up at Citi Field for the Phillies to take the series lead.
Yeah, this is, I mean, to me, this is the series. It doesn't get any bigger than this one. I know every game is the next in game is the most important one, yada, yada, yada. You know, back against the wall on the road in Game 4, you certainly want to avoid that. So I think Game 3 decides this series. I think if they win today, anything's possible tomorrow. If you win today, you're guaranteeing a game at Citizens Bank Park, where hopefully, Renee, they kind of exercise the demons there a little bit with Bryce Harper and Nick Castellanos and Bryson Stott the other night. Because you were on the doorstep of 4 straight home losses for a ballpark that was, you know, the biggest home field advantage in baseball history. So hopefully, you know, look, would I love to win it in 4? Yeah, sure. But I think you, me, Tyler kind of all agree here that there's a strong likelihood this is going 5. And I have a renewed sense of confidence in the Phillies returning back to Citizens Bank Park if they get there.
Yeah, and you talk about the importance of this game. Obviously, every game in the playoffs, the next game is the most important game, the game that you're playing that day. Well, it gets even more important when you look at the history of this 2-2-1 series format, because in the 44 times, 29 of 44 times, when the team that is going home for games 3 and 4, they are the team that wins. So it is in a 2-2-1 series, teams heading home for games 3 and 4 in a 1-1 series that is split have won 29 of 44 times.
That's not bad.
66%.
Yeah, I'll take that.
There is hope.
Yeah, I'll take that.
That's a little over half of the times that the home team wins when the series is split, going back to their home ballpark. So obviously very crucial for the Phillies returning, or going up to Queens, I should say. And that's familiar territory. They were just playing there not too long ago, and they're back again.
Aaron Nola's last start there was a really memorable one. But why I think this one's so important, Renee, is like because the Mets had that magic.
Yes.
You know, for the past 3-4 weeks, they've been playing come from behind in the 8th inning or later. Like this entire past week, they had the juice. They had the magic. Hopefully, Bryce and Nick kind of punched them in the nose and maybe stole that magic. So if you go out there today on their home field and punch them in the nose again, I really think there is momentum and emotions and an ebb and flow to these series. And I think if you punch them in the nose today, it's over. So, you know, it's a huge one up at Citi Field.
Yeah, and as you talk about for the Mets, as they are back at Citi Field, they have actually lost the last 3 games they've played at home that were a game with their playoff stakes on the line. They also have played 11 postseason games at Citi Field since it opened in 2009. They're going to be pumped up, fired up, looking forward to
they got Grimace hopping around on the subway.
It has been about 16 days
Steve
since
Cohen's outside kissing babies. Like,
literally.
Oh, God.
So, you know, let's get a nice pulse check from another voice. We've had a chance to give our thoughts a lot on this series. We'll get into pitching matchups, lineups, and much more. But our dear friend Hannah Keyser is actually joining us to weigh in on the series Game 3, Phillies-Mets. Hannah, nice to have you here on this Tuesday. We haven't had a chance to chat with you on the show. I want to just start right off the bat with what are your overall thoughts after seeing the first 2 games play out heading into Game 3?
Well, it's a really fun series. They've all been really fun series. I thought this was a shocking stat to me. This is the first time ever that all 4 DS series have been tied 1-1.
We were just talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah?
Before the show, we hahaven't talked about it on air yet. But, yeah, I was kind of stunned. Yeah. You did?
It's fine. Jamie doesn't listen to me when I speak.
On air, off air, it's all the same, Hannah.
But yeah, it is the first time ever since we've had this format that it's been a split series for all four.
And it really reflects actually the postseason field at large. This is the first time in a decade that we haven't had a team finish the regular season with at least 100 wins, sorry. So these teams are actually really well matched. I know it feels like, oh, Philly were the division winners, or a wild card team, the obvious favorite, but across the board, all 12 teams that got into the postseason were really, really even matched, especially when you take into account the teams that they had right now and not over 160 games or 6 months. Dan Szymborski at Fangraphs looks in this every year, kind of roster that a team has at the regular season, how would they fare? And those are even closer matched than the actual things were at the end of this regular season. So all of which to say, I don't think Phillies fans should think, how is it that we lost a game to the Wild Mets? Those wild card Mets are pretty good, which is not to say that I think they are the favorite. The Phillies still just have a lot more talent, and they are incredibly fortunate with health last couple of years, especially this year.
Yeah, it's almost, the Mets are almost scarier because the Phillies do have better talent, but the Mets, won't die ever, whether it's the 8th inning, the 9th inning, or whatever. Hannah, you're up there in the belly of the beast in New York. I have a lot of Mets friends. They're emotionally damaged inside, but there is an air of confidence to them. What's the overall feeling going on in New York? I see Grimace hopping around in the subway. Steve Cohen's out there. It's obviously a big party time, but is there confidence in the city?
Yeah, I think there really is. I mean, I do XNY TV, that's the Mets channel, and all year, a lot of what we've been doing is sort of comparing the feeling of the Mets to the Yankees. And technically, the Yankees have been the better team all year, but it's really felt like the Yankees are in some ways underperforming and Mets are overperforming. And that's given the city a feeling of, well, everyone's jumped the Mets bandwagon, kind of.
That is interesting. The other thing we've noticed is you talk about how this series has been so far such a classic baseball, especially Game 2, playoff baseball games that we've been seeing very back and forth. Both teams kind of taking their jabs. We've seen Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, Zach Wheeler, Bryson Stott. We've seen Mark Vientos, Pete Alonso. For both teams, they've had their guys that have stepped up. I'm curious your thoughts on who do you think today are going to be the big names that we're talking about? Who do you think is primed for a very big performance in this NLDS Game 3?
I really think we're either going to talk about Aaron Nola or Pete Alonso, because a lot has been made about how Pete Alonso has really good numbers against Aaron Nola, but Aaron Nola has pretty good numbers at Citi Field. And so I think that matchup, and the bullpens have both been incredibly shaky. So if it's the Pete Alonso is going to be quiet, going to have to be by Nola at the start. Actually, the bullpens have been a really interesting story across baseball this postseason. Closers are blowing Maves.
Yeah, Manuel Clase.
Yeah.
So far this year, starters have a 3.55 ERA, almost a whole run lower was last postseason. But closers have already blown 10 saves, which is the same number for the entire month of October last year. So I really think we're either going to be talking about Aaron Nola stepping up, like giving the team length, keeping them away from maybe Hoffman or Strong and sitting down Pete Alonso, or we're going to be talking about how Pete Alonso baseball back to New York for this year, and here he is, the hero again.
Yeah. Hannah, obviously the Phillies going with a little bit of a different lineup versus Sean Manea in the lefty tonight. Austin Hayes gets the start in left field. Edmundo Sosa gets the start at second base. I would imagine we see Stott maybe for defensive replacement purposes once the Mets get to that righty-heavy bullpen. But what do you make of the lefty lineup that Rob's throwing out there today?
Yeah, they're just playing the matchup. I mean, these games, it's interesting. I've been trying to think through kind of why we've seen so many blown saves. I'll get this around to your point. I'm thinking we're seeing so many blown saves in part just because teams are so willing to play matchup baseball. If you bring in a pitcher, they're going to switch in a guy who has good numbers into that pitcher. So we're going to see. I don't think too much into the lineup. It's really just about handedness, splits. They're playing every inning strategically, not one game as a whole.
Well, I agree with you completely. It's a lot of tactical decision-making, just especially looking at data and matchups as well. Well, Hannah, we appreciate you so much for carving out time to hop on the show with us. We appreciate the work that you're doing. And for everybody tuned in, they'll be able to check out, Hannah, your writing. That'll be on allphly.com that people can read the articles you're going to be pumping out this postseason. It's a pleasure having you on board.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having me,
Hannah.
guys.
Yes, no
See ya,
problem.
Hannah.
All right. Well, there you have it.
Yeah, make
Hannah
sure
Keyser,
after the game, we'll tweet out the link. But
Absolutely.
Hannah will be writing a story for all PHLY after the game today. So really excited to have her, on board here with us.
You know, guys,
Yes.
the one thing that Hannah brought up that was made pretty apparent in the Tigers-Guardians game yesterday was Stephen Vogt left Boyd in the game to make sure that Kerry Carpenter was on the bench for an extra at-bat, because you saw as soon as Kerry Carpenter got turned, or as soon as the Guardians got turned around. Now, granted, Clase has been a beast all year. He missed his spot.
2 home runs all year.
That is what it is.
Insane.
But Kerry Carpenter came into the game as soon as that A.J. Hinch and the Tigers went to a right-handed heavy, or excuse me, when Stephen Vogt went to a right-handed heavy bullpen.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bullpen is very important. We're seeing a lot of the best bullpen arms, not just with the Phillies, but you look at Emmanuel Clase, you look at Devin Williams, you look across the league that are getting some firsts. Guys that have had 1 or 2 home runs all season that are giving up major game-changing and not only like game-winning or losing hits, we're talking about ending your season, Brewers. But starting pitching is also equally important. And tonight,
There's
as
some
we
encouraging
are
stuff here about
looking at
Nola.
the matchup of Sean Manea and Aaron Nola, some very encouraging numbers, especially looking at the postseason numbers alone. So for Aaron Nola, this is his 10th playoff start.
Well, what we're going to do, Renee, is just gloss over the Nola on extended rest
gosh.
numbers that are not
We're
beneficial
giving
to the
all
Phillies'
the
cause.
real here, guys.
Yeah.
We're not.
So we're just going to gloss over those and give you the good ones.
I don't even know what numbers you're talking about. They're
It's not
all
a thing.
good. There are
He's-
no bad numbers
he's
for
never
Nola.
pitched on long
Sarcasm.
rest. Yeah.
So for Aaron Nola, this is his 10th playoff start he's making today. He has a 2.45 ERA in his 6th career postseason starts at Citizens Bank Park. Unfortunately, a 6.32 ERA in his 3 playoff postseason starts. But we're not talking about that either. For Nola, he has actually pitched very well in his most recent postseasons. He had a .71 ERA over 4 starts in the NL Wildcard Series and NLDS that we remember. The Phillies were 4-0 in those games. And his ERA, unfortunately, did jump when you look at the last 2 seasons, the NLCS, the World Series in 2023, and 2022 World Series. So we know that as the postseason goes on, he hasn't been great, but that's not a problem for today. But for Aaron Nola, his career numbers versus New York have been really good. He actually has been pitching a lot better. He has had some solid numbers since September. Now, he allowed multiple runs in all but one of the last 6 outings he's made, unfortunately. In that span, a 4.91 ERA and a 1.39 whip. I'm still trying to get to the good part here. Aaron Nola has been very up and down, unfortunately. But his best start of his season that he had at Citi Field, that was back on May 14th, we remember, where he had a shutout performance against the Mets
Yeah, that was a
on
good
the
one.
road.
Let's
He's
do that
had
again.
some good. He's had some goods. He's had some bads, unfortunately, as well. So when you look at what Aaron Nola's provided on the mound, unfortunately, we know this. This has been one of our biggest pet peeves of him, is that he does have some ups and downs. You don't know what to expect from him. But let's hope today we're getting a really good shutout, similar type of performance in May 14th of Aaron Nola today.
Yeah, I think it's not really Aaron Nola I'm worried about today. It's the 2 other things, the bullpen and the offense. Now, I read something here regarding Nola and the offense that gave me some confidence heading into this game. The bullpen, I do believe, Tyler, you can hop in on this too when you want. I do believe that's just rust in the week off, and these guys are so used to high leverage situations, bi-weekly or thrice weekly, whatever you want to say. To take that week off and just ramp back up again, I think is more difficult for them than it is a starter. But in regards to the offense today, I bet with Bet365 the Phillies over 3.5 runs today.
I like it.
Strictly because of this stat. In Aaron Nola's 9 career postseason starts, he has received a total of 38 runs of support. His 49.2 innings averages out to just over 7 runs of support on average a game. In postseason history, that ranks 5th all time. So it's almost the opposite regular season Cole Hamels. And I know Nola has kind of been on the other end of this, of not getting run support in the regular season, but in the postseason, things have gone well for him. So I'm going to put that goodness into the air. I'm going to bet the Phillies run line over. I think they get to the Mets today. I was really encouraged reading that one.
Yeah, I think that's the key. It's the opposite issue we've seen from Zach Wheeler at times, in that Aaron Nola doesn't give you the best pitching performances, but the team really rallies around him when he's on the mound. He does bring a calming presence. Not saying that Zach Wheeler doesn't, but for Aaron Nola, he does bring this very calm demeanor. You always know what you're going to get from him.
Same, yeah.
Always the same, never too high, never too low. And I do think, for whatever odd reason, as you mentioned, with him having that incredible stat of run support, on a game where you need your offense to step up today, that's encouraging.
And when
hopefully
you think about
they will rally around him.
He's also usually, in the 2 spot, facing
that's
another.
true.
Unless it's unless the rotation's not lined up, but he's usually going against another good pitcher, and the Phillies offense has given him support and responded. So you love to see that. Hopefully the offense today. I don't know if it's just the false confidence from innings 7, 8, and 9 last week, but maybe the shadows are different. Bryce Harper being the greatest postseason player ever maybe gives me confidence, but I think the offense, maybe it's JT's comments of like, we're not tight anymore.
Yes.
I feel a little bit of confidence coming from the team all of a sudden now, so I'm gonna digest it and spit it back out into the universe as confidence on my part.
Manifesting it.
Yeah.
Aaron Nola does have a 3.57 ERA on the season. He's got a 14-8 record coming into today, is 1.20 WHIP, and he's got 17.9% Ks per walk percentage. He has shown us very good. And we've also seen, of course, the drop-offs of Aaron Nola. And today is going to be a great Aaron Nola day. We are manifesting that absolutely for his 10th playoff start. On the other side, he's going up against Sean Manea, who comes in with a 3.47 ERA, 12-6 on the season.
Add him to the hate
last
list.
time that the Phillies faced off against Sean, we remember that was a playoff game, but not in a Mets jersey. NLCS Game 4 of 2022, when it was Phillies-Padres, and the Phillies won that game 10-6, and Sean Manea took the mound as a bullpen arm, and he went 1 1/3 inning, gave up 4 hits, 5 earned runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. And with those 5 earned runs, it helped the Phillies explode offensively to go on to win the game 10-6. Now he's been saying, and I've been watching everything Phillies and Mets because I want to know what they're talking about too. He's been saying, I'm not that same guy. I'm a totally different Sean these days. You know, he's kind of quote unquote moved on from that game, learned from that game. But he is someone that, going up against the Phillies, we didn't forget that. 8 straight games from mid-August to September that he's pitched, and they were all Mets wins. He did allow a .67 WHIP in that time, which is 4 base runners for every 6 innings. And Sean Manea also reached 6 strikeouts in all but 2 of those 8 games to close out the regular season. And he actually has been he was on my fantasy team, guys. So I've been watching him very closely all season. He actually has been really good this season for the Mets. He's been a big part of why they've been successful.
But something about him gives me the aura that the Phillies can get to him. I don't know. Something about his face. I just think the Phillies are going to get to him today. You know, he has been successful, but sometimes you turn back into a pumpkin. And if the Phillies really did steal the magic back in those late innings the other game. Jeff Passan had a great line. He said, the Phillies are here because the Mets don't own a monopoly on comebacks. Yeah. I love that because, all year the Phillies have been resilient and they've battled back. And, I know the offense isn't going great, but playoffs are a different animal. And Bryce Harper's on their squad. And Kyle Schwarber is, got the most home runs for a left-handed hitter in playoff history. He's 4th all time.
Yes.
The Phillies have some playoff magic of their own, too, the past couple years. So, I think they sense that. And, I'm optimistic they're going to jump on Manea today. Well, I'm hoping, because the Mets bullpen is trash.
Yes.
And I hope they can get to him early. I think if you get to this bullpen early, the Mets are in trouble.
I think that is a difference because the offense hasn't been hitting well, that they haven't had to go to their bullpen early. They've been able in their last 2 starts to go a little bit deeper with their starting pitchers. I think if the Phillies can, that's why I would love.
Diaz has thrown 134 pitches this week.
Yes, I would love 4 or 5 early runs that the Phillies score. Make them have. I want mound visits. I want timeouts. I want call to the bullpen. I want all of that early on. And you mentioned the numbers for home runs. Bryce Harper now has 17 career postseason home runs between his time with the Phillies and the Nationals, which is the same amount as some Hall of Famers, David Ortiz, Jim Thome, and only 13 players across Major League Baseball history have hit more home runs than him in the playoffs. Schwarber, as you mentioned, 21 career postseason home runs between the Phillies, Cubs, and Red Sox. And we know he's already cemented himself tied with Bryce in terms of Phillies home runs, but also no left-handed hitter, as you mentioned, in postseason history with more home runs than Schwarber. And above him on that leaderboard, all time for right, left, doesn't matter, Manny Ramirez, Jose Altuve, Bernie Williams. So if these guys can get going early, this would be a great way to take an early lead, hold on to that lead, and force the Mets to have to go to their bullpen early.
Yeah, and I think Stott, we talked about it, whether Marsh and Stott come in immediately after Manea leaves the game, because the Mets bullpen really doesn't have many lefties. I know Manea is kind of the inverse. Tyler and I were talking about it earlier, the reverse kind of splits guy.
Right.
But I do think to get Bryson Stott's defense in the game will be imperative. Because Edmundo's fine and all. It's not like you're going to suffer. But I think as soon as Manea leaves, there's no reason not to go to Stott, especially since we've talked about last show and even today, letting Stott kind of capitalize on that, hopefully renewed sense of confidence he got from that triple last game.
Hopefully.
And Renee, you mentioned, you said Sean Manea said he's a different guy from the last time he faced the Phillies. And he is. Yeah, and there's two
Turn him back into a pumpkin.
There's two reasons for that, and one is he has kind of ditched the four-seam fastball in exchange for the sinker. Last year he threw the sinker just about. I'm trying to find the exact number. He threw it just about 12 times. No, sorry, 16 times. This year, instead of the four-seam, which he threw 1,100 times last year, he threw that 300 times. He threw the sinker 1,300 times this season. The sinker is an entirely different pitch for him than the four-seam is. And then the second thing is his arm slot. He's dropped his arm slot down. The past couple years, he's been at about 26 to 28% of an arm angle. This year, he's down to 23%. It's a different arm slot. It's a different look.
Are you telling me the Mets developed somebody?
It's crazy how that happened, right?
What?
Well, and he. So you're right, Renee. He is a different guy than he was the last time they faced him. Does that mean that the Phillies can't get to him? No, of course it doesn't. The Phillies have good numbers off Sean Manea in their career. A bunch of them do.
Absolutely. And I know in the chat I'm seeing some different comments about Greg, you're saying Manea has those postseason nightmares of the Phillies. The entire Padres fan base does. What's up, everybody in the chat on YouTube, Twitter, everybody that's tuned in live right now to our pregame show presented by Miller Lite. Make sure you guys, you read my mind. I was going to talk about the delicious Miller Lite. Decades and decades of undebatable quality. It's always Miller time. You never have to choose between what's taste or low calories, because it's both with Miller Lite. And this is our pregame show brought to you by Miller Lite that you can get delivered to your door right now over at MillerLite.com/PHLY Phillies or anywhere else you buy your beer.
And look at it. I was driving through my neighborhood today, and look what I saw.
Wow. Ace
Hardware Home Services right there in the hood.
Making a visit to somebody's house. And you, too, can reach out to Ace Hardware, because Red October is powered by Ace Hardware Home Services. You can check them out at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project.
And not shocking,
wow,
the car was in front of a house that's getting flipped and remodeled, and it looks great. Because Ace knows. He knows what's up. Ace knows ball.
All right, we also know what's up with these lineups, because we did get the Phillies and the Mets lineups dropped. Starting with the Phillies lineup, we wondered what tinkering Rob Thompson and his staff would do in terms of the matchups, lefty-righty matchups. Well, we've got it. Kyle Schwarber is, of course, leading things off. You've got Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, Alec Boehm is back in the starting lineup, which we knew. JT Realmuto, and then Austin Hayes and Edmundo Sosa are in the lineup today, with Johan Rojas batting last in ninth. So Austin Hayes gets to go in the outfield. Edmundo Sosa gets to start today at second base. We wondered if they were going to ride with the hot hand of Bryson Stott off of his birthday, 2 RBI, go-ahead hit, or if they were going to go with the matchup, and we've got our answer. It's Sosa.
Edmundo has had some success versus him. So, they're playing the matchup. As Jim Salisbury said with us the other day, I don't think there's a wrong answer here.
Yeah.
I do think Stott will come in for defensive purposes, as soon as possible. Whether or not Hayes and Marsh is swapped out, I'll be interested to see. But I think we talked about this after the other game. With two lefties coming up, this could be the Phillies lineup, and sure enough, it is.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'd love to see Austin Hayes or Edmundo Sosa make Rob Thompson look like a genius today.
Yeah, I mean, Sosa, as we know, getting the start for Boehm last game, went 0 for 2, had the error. Not a great day for him on either side of the ball. Hopefully today is a chance he can be that energy piece that Rob talks about. Boehm also back in the lineup, which is huge, because we've already looked at all the numbers for him. There's so many concerning numbers for him. But most importantly, he knew he wasn't going to start game 2. Rob had texted him and they already had a conversation. And now he's, as he said, he's past that. Let's hope he's past that and ready to go today.
And real quick number on Austin Hayes. Since joining the Phillies, his OPS versus lefties is a 1.111. That's pretty good. That's why.
We like that.
Look, some people I've heard, and whether it be in our Discord here at PHLY or on Twitter, I've heard people say, "Oh man, that trade deadline! What a lame trade deadline! You need better." Austin Hayes was brought here specifically because he does well against lefties. I know it may not have been the sexiest name in the world or the most exciting, but the guy was brought here for this purpose. So please, sir, go out there today and hit a lefty. Well, I really want to see Trey Turner continue, stealing bases. He joined some rare air last game, stealing 3 bags. But I want to see Austin Hayes hit lefties because that's why he's here.
Yeah, we demanded more from Trey pregame in our pregame show ahead of the Game 2. Well, I'm going to also demand more. You mentioned Austin Hayes, Alec Bohm, because Alec Bohm, as we know, has been struggling. And when you look at his numbers, it's been a really down stretch for him in the second half of the season. So for him to have, obviously, he was sidelined until September 14th, dealing with that strained left hand. But since then, he's had 2 hits in his 34 at-bats with a 280 batting average, 15 home runs. He's had 15 home runs, 97 RBIs, and 44 doubles this year, but we haven't seen a lot from him offensively. 2 for 28 to close out the regular season, and then, of course, 0 for 4, and then 0 for 2 as a pinch hitter in Game 2. It is time for Alec Bohm. He said he doesn't know what's going on. If he knew that, he would have fixed it by now, but hopefully today is the day that he can start to feel a little bit of that confidence.
Yeah, in Todd Zalecki's email today, he said, Rob Thompson texted him late Saturday night. It does kind of seem like Rob Thompson was trying to, grab him by the lapels and shake him a little bit, and maybe that text was meant to be kind of disruptive and not like, hey, Alec, are you okay?
Yeah, it's more like.
Just like, hey, by the way, you're not playing tomorrow. You wake up, snap back. So, I think it's easy to say that Bohm's struggles are injury-related.
Yeah.
But this was a guy who was, perhaps your most steady hitter from opening day to the end of the season. Struggled late, hopefully just because of the injury. It would be awesome to see him come back to life today.
It would be. He was 8 for 47 with 2 home runs, 8 RBIs, a .502 OPS in his final 12 games of the regular season after his IL stint, batting a 170.
Ooh.
Today is hopefully the day that did not carry well into the playoffs, but today is hopefully the day that he can shake that up a bit.
The NRD has just texted some research.
What you got?
Send it over.
On top of poor plate discipline, like you guys are talking about, somebody brought up in the chat, I believe it was Ray. He hasn't seen many pitches in his 6 at-bats in the postseason.
Well, he swung pitch 1 last in the pinch hit the other day. That was not great.
This may be even more concerning. The exit velocity on the 6 balls that he's put into play this postseason so far, 63.5, 71.3, 74.5. He squared up 1 and hit 96.4.
Okay.
87.7. 79.7. So 4 of the 6 are under 80 miles an hour, and 5 of the 6 are under 90 miles an hour. So on top of poor plate discipline and poor selection, he's not squaring up the baseball either.
Yeah.
No. Oh, yikes. Okay, today is the day, Alec Bohm.
Yeah, the benching shook him
Today
back to
is the
life.
day, yes.
Oh, you want to go a step further? By the way, the distances of these balls were 131, 18, 7, 29, 93, and 126. That's feet, guys, by the way.
Oof.
I didn't
Today
think
is the day.
It was inches.
Well, the other side for the Mets, they're starting things off with Francisco Lindor, Mark Vientos, Brandon Nimmo, Pete Alonso, Jose Iglesias, Jesse Winker, Starling Marte, Tyrone Taylor, and Francisco Alvarez. So same lineup that we've been seeing for the majority of their games. They're not changing anything. Now, it is time to get into predictions because the game is starting shortly.
5 minutes.
We are nearing game time as
Grimace.
We are here live at Gall & Co. in the Port Richmond location on Indiana Avenue for our pregame show presented by Ace Hardware Home Services and Delicious Miller Lite. All right, prediction
Halloween
time.
bar, don't you think?
This is a great Halloween bar, actually. It's beautiful in here. High ceilings. I see the Halloween decor is
right
out.
up there.
That's not Jason. That's Michael Myers.
Michael Myers, that's what I meant. That one.
Oh, gosh.
I'm not a
Hopefully
horror
your
movie
predictions
guy.
are a little more accurate than your horror movie guys. Who do you have?
If that was Billy Madison, Jamie would have been all over it.
Yeah, Billy Madison, you know, but you don't know Michael Myers
Well,
from
I
Jason.
did. I just misspoke. I mean,
No, it's
Jason's
totally
it's a
fine.
hockey mask. It's
I'm
white.
not gonna lie. I mean, they wear the same outfit. They just one has a mask and one has a white face and
it's a William Shatner mask.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Casey Jones did it better in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. All right, for predictions, I'm going to put all my faith in my 5-year-old Skylar. I asked her this morning, as we've asked her before each game. Saturday, she said they were going to lose. Sunday, she said they were going to win. This morning at breakfast, I asked her. She said they're going to win. She said Bryce Harper is going to have a big hit again. I'm rolling with Skylar. I think the Phillies are going to get it done. I'm going to go. I think they get to Manea. That's just what's in my gut.
Okay.
There's no real analysis behind it except just straight vibes. I think they get to him, and I think they're going to punch him in the nose today. I'm going to say Phillies 7, Mets 4.
Okay, let us know in the chat your predictions while Tyler and
How
I
do we
give
feel
ours.
about
Tyler,
that? 7-4.
I like it. I'm gonna write it down because I like to track our predictions,
right.
see who's accurate.
That would back up the stat that Aaron Nola gets 7 runs of support
That
on
would.
average
and
in the postseason.
Plus 3. You're +3 as well. So,
Yes.
okay, 7
and
for
Skylar
Phillies.
would go 3 for 3 in predictions, and she could become the orb.
And basically, it's time for her to be on the show because if she's that accurate, we've got to bring her in.
All
Breaking news. All right, Tyler, what do you have?
Who the hell knows? I'm 0 for 2 at this point. So if I pick the Phillies, they're going to lose. So here's what I'm going to do for both of your sake
pick the Mets.
and everybody's sake watching.
Yeah.
The Mets are going to win this game.
All right, Tyler. There we go.
Who I believe is going to win this game.
Nope. Just cut him off. Cut off the mic.
No.
We'll turn
What's
the mic
your
off.
score
Mets
on that?
win.
Because last game, Tyler also predicted Mets, so he's predicting Mets again, which I like. What's your score prediction?
Do it for the people.
I think this is going to be another close game. I'm going to take 5-4.
Oh, okay. So you
All
guys
right,
we're
Renee.
scoring some runs. Okay, so we haven't had a lot of, we've had some very tight late game flurries of runs that have been the difference. I'm going to go, I've been saying this, the Phillies are putting up 4 or 5 runs in the first 3 frames.
I think they're going to jump them too.
Yeah, I think they're jumping out. The offense is going
feel
to score
that.
some runs early. I'm going to go, I like the 8-1 prediction in the chat. I'm going to raise that to a 9-1.
Ooh,
No,
spicy.
1 is tough for the Mets. I'm going to go 9-2. 9-2 Phillies win. I know in the chat we have a lot.
9 spot.
Greg is saying Bomer's going yard. Mark, you're saying 8-1 Phillies win. I think around 7 to 9 runs for the Phillies is accurate. Ray is saying the Phillies are going to win this 6-2. We've got 5-4 Phillies spiral out. K-Red saying 10-3. The
Hell
Phillies
yeah,
are winning.
K-Red.
I
Say it
like
with
it.
your
I like
chest.
it. And Steven Garrison, glad you got your playoff shirt. Hopefully everybody's got their shirts, the lucky socks, the lucky, your Miller Lite. Get
Skylar's
your
got her lucky
seats.
Fanatic shirt.
Get your lucky gear,
Yeah.
whatever you need, because it is game time
Let's
now.
get their asses.
It is time. All right, this is our pregame show coming to an end. We will be live here at Goal & Co. hanging with you guys, watching the game off the air, I should say, enjoying the game with some delicious Witterwitowski, some Miller Lights and drinks, and then we'll be back live post-game, recapping all the excitement and talking about a Phillies win, of course. So thank you guys for tuning in to another edition of our PHLY Phillies pregame show. It's all playoff time, guys. Presented by Miller Lite and Ace Hardware Home Services. Thank you for your predictions. Thanks for weighing in and hanging with
See you
us.
after the game.
And we will see you guys post-game
Go
for more
Phils.
here on PHLY Phillies. Bye, guys.